Welcome to Human School. I'm your host, Dr. Patil Armenian. After 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 4 years of residency, and 2 years of fellowship, I thought I was done. I did my time, got my degrees, and now I was just gonna live life. Well, think again. Some of my greatest schooling has come after my formal education was complete, and it keeps on coming. Join me at Human School, where we can learn together. I'm an emergency physician and medical toxicologist working at a large teaching hospital in California. I'm also a mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend. Whether you work in healthcare or not, you too lead a busy life. Together, let's work on how we can thrive in all of our real world roles. On this podcast, we'll dig deep into what it means to constantly learn and evolve, to be human. Every other week, I'll share some of my personal stories, interview inspiring people, and offer tools to help you learn more about yourself. Being on the front lines in the ER, you learn a lot about life and death. And though my philosophies were born in a busy emergency room, they can apply to anyone trying to live a joyful life here on Earth. Please listen, share, and subscribe to this podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram at Human School Podcast, and feel free to let me know what topics or guests you want to hear about. And if you like the podcast, don't forget to rate and review it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Human School. This is going to be part 2 of Following the Road Signs. If you haven't listened to part 1, which was episode 29, please go and listen to that first. This is a conversation between me and my sister, Garin, who I call her G. She calls me P. My sister, by the way, is a wife and a mother to 2 kids. And so far in this story, she reveals to us that she was newly diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, was working more than full time in a municipal government job, and didn't have a lot of time to herself. The small amount of time she had for herself was what she carved out by waking up every morning at 5 a.m. and writing while everybody else slept. So for over 2 years, she was waking up super early to write a novel before the rest of the family started their day, kind of almost in a dreamlike state. She would see scenes and write them out. Later, she figured out that she was writing about real places she had never seen before in Humboldt County, California. In the summer of 2022, between a couple of rounds of chemo, actually between her first and second round, she decided to take a road trip to Northern California to explore the locations in the novel. In this episode, she tells us what happens when she got to Northern California and what kind of experiences she had there. Gets a little weird, but I mean, isn't life weird? So trust me, you're going to have fun listening, and here it is. So I'm going to let her take it away. What town were you staying in?
Scotia, California. Tiny logging lumber town. Very small town, just surrounded by forest. It's an island in the forest is what it is. And it's right off of the 101.
So I'm assuming there is only one hotel in Scotia.
One hotel.
And so you walk in and tell us
Let me
about
just
it.
say, just a sec. The one hotel off of the 101 on Main Street. So I just want to pause and say, I'm an urban girl, okay? I think I just want to come up clean and be like, even though I love nature, I just want to admit I'm born and raised in cities. So to have driven off the 101 freeway, which is in my own backyard here, and I exited. So here I am on Main Street in Scotia Lodge. I pull up and there are no other cars in the parking of this lodge. It's a very large building, very beautiful from the outside, old fashioned, 2-story, white building. Looks like a community hall built turn of the century, but there's no cars.
What day of the
So
week is it?
so it's I think it was Tuesday. It was definitely a Tuesday or a Wednesday midweek, but there's like nothing to the point where I was like, does this door open? I mean, is anybody here? It didn't have that vibe like, okay, we're light today, but welcome. And I go into the main entrance and it's gorgeous. It's a beautiful, open, redwood built, gorgeous floors, rocking chairs. It's very early craftsman style. A lot of like Tiffany glass, just really, you can feel that this is authentic, turn of the century America, but very well maintained. And I thought, wow, I mean, this is amazing. I look around and there's actually nobody there. So there's a front desk, there's no one there. And I like start to walk around. I'm the only person at the lodge. So I go around and now I'm meandering. I'm thinking someone's got to pop up. I mean, I'm trying to check in. And there was a little window, which was their restaurant window. So I walk into this area, and it turns out to be a huge, kind of grand ballroom style, but very, about over 120 years old. And it's a lot of high backed chairs at little tables. Everything's wood. And I just keep walking through empty table after empty table, thinking, well, I don't really even know where I'm going. And I see a little restaurant counter. There's a sign. So I follow the arrow, and there's a girl in jeans and a sweatshirt just sitting behind this counter. And she's like, yeah, how can I help you? So I'm like, well, I'm just trying to check in, and there's no one up front. And then she's like, oh, by the way, completely not friendly. I want to just say no one was friendly. No one was overtly mean. Just like I felt from the minute I got there that maybe I shouldn't even be here. Like I'm not welcome. I'm not getting kicked out, but I'm definitely not welcome. Versus, you go into any other hotel, and what's the whole principle of a hotel? They're like, hi, welcome, here's your room key, here's where this and that is. And it was like the opposite of that. So I guess she calls someone, she's like, just go back up front. I was like, okay. And I go back up front, and someone begrudgingly is like trudging towards the front desk. So I check in, and I was like, well, is there anywhere to eat? And he's like, yeah, that restaurant. So down where I just was the only place to eat. So I get my burger. I've like, well, I'm starving because I just came off the road trip, and I get my room key. And so before I got my burger, he gave me my room key, and he's like, "Well, I'll just walk you up there." Well, I was like, "Okay, I'll just leave my stuff in the car then, I guess, and then I'll come back and get everything." "Yeah, okay, that sounds good," he said. So I followed him back to where I was, past the restaurant counter, past all those empty chairs and the massive dining hall where there was no one. And we go up the side staircase, and we're now walking down a hallway, and every single bedroom door is open, and there's no one in them. It's a very nice bedroom. I had, of course, looked online in great detail and thought this place looks great. And I remember texting you about it. You were like, yeah, that is such a cute place. So I'm like, asked him, why are all the doors open? And he's like, yeah, we just keep all the doors open because it gets really mildewy. So we figure let some airflow. But at night we come through and we close them all. I was like, oh, interesting. So it's room after room, right, left, open, 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 open. And we get to my room. And this hallway, by the way, super long and genuinely creepy hallway. It has a red carpet. This is all very worn down. And it has this glossy white paint. And at the very end is a very large mirror. And so you can kind of see yourself, and it has lights every so often. And although it was broad daylight, it just felt really dark in there. Even though all the doors also were open and all the bedrooms had windows, it felt very dark. So we're getting there and we finally get to my room, and it's a huge, beautiful room. And he gives me a key, like an actual old fashioned door key. And he's like, okay. So I say, okay, thank you so much. I go in there, I close the door, I lock it, and I realize I am the only person in the hotel. There's nobody else staying there.
Well, that's creepy.
Yeah.
So you
W-
walk into your room, which, by the way, this place had great potential, very cute, well maintained, but something's off. You walk into your room, and what's the layout like?
Immediately to the right is the master bed. It's like the main bed. The whole room is very large and spacious, but very old fashioned. So what they had done was kept a lot of the original furniture from the turn of the century, but then updated it with cool lighting fixtures and different wall treatments and new knobs and stuff for the sink for the bathroom and things like that. They had tried to do a cool job, which on the photos it looked amazing. So the room was very large, so it really extended out to the right. The bed, then a little dresser, a chair, a mirror. Then you go towards the left and it's the bathroom. The bathroom had a claw footed tub, and it was really beautiful, very vintage. Everything was clearly revived old original hardware and materials. Now, from the bathroom, there was another door, which when I opened that door, it led to a very small sitting room, which they had put a day bed in. The day bed had a ton of pillows against the back and another chair and a little table. And I was like, oh, this is such a cute little space. It seems like maybe what a modern day walk-in closet might be like, but also this was very high ceilings. So it was a lot of space for one person. It was very nice layout. I thought it was like interesting that past the bathroom there was another smaller room, which by the way also had a window, a legit little room. Actually, that also had a door leading to the hallway. And so you could have gone out either way. The door I entered from or that small bedroom had a door. But the minute I walked in and locked that door behind me, I felt this great sense of like, oh shit. This really, really daunting feeling came over me that I'm not safe. I remember locking the door and actually realizing as I heard the click, because you could hear the click really loud, I thought, oh, that's not going to do shit. I don't know why I felt that, but I knew that if anyone wanted to get me or I just felt like this is a joke. Like I should just leave my door open. I remember being like, you're locking that door. What a farce. And I just stood there like, now what?
Yeah. Now what?
Well, now what? I did go down, like, I had a burger as if all this was normal. I went and I sat outside thinking, okay, everything's fine, you know. I don't know, I'm overreacting, but I felt unsettled and genuinely trying to calm myself from freaking out from the minute I walked in. And that lasted for like 5 days because I did stay. I knew I could have left at any time, but I don't know why. And I didn't. I couldn't leave. Like, my car's right there. This is a road trip of my own doing. I can, of course, get in the car and get out. And yet I felt like gravitationally pulled and stuck. And like, I cannot leave. I'm now here and I will only leave when my official day of departure arrives. And I was like panicking. I know it sounds ridiculous now. And it's like, okay, you don't like the place. Just get in your car and go. I couldn't do that. I didn't do that. And so I ended up staying. After I had my burger, I was like still trying to act normal and say, okay, well, where's the little convenience store? Because I like to get a few things for the room. This town had one main street. The main street had this lodge. It had a supermarket across from the street, and I'm calling it a supermarket. I should really call it like a
Market.
market. I just want to share that it was physically a large space, but it was sparse and dingy and sad.
Yeah. But you needed to stock up. You needed
So I
snacks
went
and
there.
stuff.
And then I went to the market. I thought, I think I don't know when it hit me, but it did hit me at some point in the market that I am the only female around because I was getting a lot of men were looking at me. And I'm saying that because it's not like I'm some beauty who just, I'm not like a supermodel appearing on the scene. I genuinely felt like a Twilight Zone moment where one man looked at me and then another. And then I thought, is there something wrong? Yeah, something's wrong. You're the only female here. Then I thought, this is a town. Where are all the women? I kept thinking that. That stayed with me the whole trip. I want to be like very clear and let everyone know. I did not see any women out and about.
So it's just
I
the
saw
women who
one
were
woman,
working.
I saw one woman looking out the window of a house. So I think what hit me then was maybe all the women are inside cooking and cleaning and doing stuff. I don't know. Maybe they're working. So I just got a few things, walked back across the street, went back up to my room, got my bags from my car, still acting like this is all going to be fine, and got in my room and again went down this long hallway with nobody there. I kept peeking into the empty rooms, walking to my room like, this is great. This is such a cute little hotel. I'm going to be fine. Locked the door behind me. And then for the first time, sat on the edge of the bed and remember feeling nervous. Like I didn't even want to wrinkle the comforter, like just sat on the edge. Like, wow, where am I? Why am I here? Do not mess anything up in this room. Like I'm not here.
And then you are getting ready for the night, I'm assuming. Now it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah. That first day, I was trying to be very quiet. I remember feeling that I don't want to make any sounds. I didn't want to alarm or alert anybody that I'm here. I was very quiet and tried to I didn't even want to turn on the TV. I didn't want there to be any noise. Now it's like, what was the deal? It was like the whole environment was silent, and I just didn't want to be the blaring loud thing in the middle of this empty place. Oh, but there's something crazy that the guy at the front told me after I had my burger. He said, "We lock the front door at 10:30 at night. So you need to be in by then." And of course I just said, "Oh, okay." And he said, "And there's probably no one on premises. So, if you need anything, just let us know before then." I said, "Okay."
Not
So,
like, if you need anything, here's a phone number to call.
no. No, no, no. But also, what do you mean there's no one on premises? Like, isn't this a hotel? You're gonna lock the door at 10:30 and leave, and I'm like the only one locked in here? You're locking me in, and you guys are leaving. I'm saying you guys. Is it just the girl that was working the restaurant counter and this guy? So I knew that I was actually probably the only human being in the hotel at night. They who work there are not there.
Yeah, so casually confirming there's no other guests in here tonight?
No, I actually asked that. I said, "Are there any other guests here?" And he said, "Not tonight, but more people are coming on the weekend." I was like, "Oh my God, I'm the only person here in this massive place." I'm going to just say there were probably 20 bedrooms for starters on the top floor, so it was a two-story structure. And on the bottom floor, like I said, it was a very, very wide open lobby area. And it's beyond a lobby, much bigger than what a normal lobby would be, very spacious. And it opened up into a very large dining hall. And I would think, like, if this was one of the early buildings in Scotia, California, which is a logging community, that is where all the meals might be had. So you it could accommodate over 100 people easily sitting, eating. That would have been a hub for when this was an active logging town. So I was just genuinely kind of shaken that first night, like first just feeling uncomfortable that I'm the only human here. It's like, what is happening? And I didn't sleep that night. So I got in my PJs, brushed my teeth, washed my face, tried to just keep to a normal routine, and then got in bed. And here's how I got in bed. I just like lifted the blanket just slightly and got in one side of the bed, the side closer to the door, because the other side was near a closet, which I'm just going to say right now, I opened that closet and closed it. And I was like, this closet is scary. I actually don't want to freak you out, P, but I really felt like there was a dead body in that closet. Like I opened that closet, and I'm not saying this like, oh, this room was scary, like there was a dead body. No. I felt viscerally there's blood there. That's how I felt. Like I opened the closet, I would not have been surprised if I saw blood there, and I didn't, of course. So I didn't want to be near the closet. So then I would rather be by the door, which was also scary. It was the kind of door, like a wooden door, and it had like a half-inch gap from the floor to the bottom of the door. So you could see light. And I was like, well, if I see footsteps approaching, I'm going to know because I can literally see their feet under this door. So got in. I didn't want to wrinkle the whole right side of the bed. I just got in like a sardine.
I'm gonna
And I
pause you
thought,
for a
I'm not,
second.
yeah.
You're not like a delicate girl. Like that's very unusual for you to do something like that as your
Oh,
sister.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, I'll kick ass if I have to. I just was
But
totally,
normally you would like rip off the blankets, get inside.
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, like make the bed comfy. I love to read in the bed. I like to put the pillows up. No, I just slithered in, like, just so I wouldn't wreck anything. I don't even know why. And I just laid there so straight, and I didn't read or anything. I did not turn off the light all night. I'll say that for sure. I did not turn off the light, and I was up all night. I would kind of pretend to myself like I'm looking at my phone as if I'm just doing my normal stuff. I had this really big sense that I needed to look like I'm doing normal things, even though my mind was racing the whole time. And I'm going to say that that room was like a vortex. I was there for 5 days. I, of course, left the room. I had hikes planned. I did other things during the day. And then I would go back to the room and it would be like I entered a vortex. And I definitely was having a lot of like telepathic communication happen when I was there.
Okay, wait. What do you mean by vortex? And then tell us more.
Okay. So I had planned this road trip because I really wanted to discover Humboldt County, and I had reached out to different park rangers who specialize in hiking trails that not a lot of people go into, and areas of the redwood forest that are very, very seldomly traveled. And I had set up some really good hikes with other groups of people who were interested, and it was all lining up. It was one of these trips where everything was lining up so well. I was so excited, and I got to go into parts of forests where very few people walk, and that was very inspirational for the novel. Looking at the foliage, looking at the ground cover, looking up at the trees. I took tons of photos. So I want to just preface this by saying during the day, I was doing activities that were very meaningful for the novel, the research I had intended to do, and all that was happening. But then I would come back to this hotel and this room, and eh, eh, all time and space would end and morph into something really messy and scary and frightening. It was like I was on pins and needles. I was on my toes. I felt like I was very alert. I was alert the whole time when I was in that room. I would never doze off. I mean, I really don't think I slept much because I didn't want to sleep. The second night, I never slept in that main bed again. The second day, I took all my stuff in the morning when I woke up and I moved everything into the small room to the left of the bathroom.
The sitting
So I
room.
never went in, yeah, the sitting room, which again, it's the size of a walk in closet with a window. I never went back into the main room except to use the coffee maker that was there and very few things. And I did end up using the door in the main room. I didn't want to open the door to the sitting room. I kept that more like a little nest. The minute I did that, I instantly knew why I did that. I realized that this room was the main room, which was being used, which then I pulled the cover back and the bed looked perfectly as if it was, never touched. I knew that that's where it was a brothel. Okay. long story short, I just knew that. I knew that the main room was being used for
The transactions.
the transactions. Thank you so much. And that the sitting room that I was in, which also had the day bed that I was actually sleeping in, that I got some sleep there, was the place that the women were in prior to going through the bathroom and into the main room to sleep with whoever their customer was. And I knew that the small room was a safe space. And it was there that I began to realize things like I have cancer and actually crying for the first time deeply. And I remember having conversations like in my head, not out loud. Like, let me just say, I'd never spoke out loud, but in my super loud voice in my head, I was having conversations now with my environment. I went into what I mean when I say a vortex was like, I lost sense of where I was and I started to feel the energy of this space and know that there was a whole the traumas that this space endured, that this was a brothel. I started to realize that some of the lighting were the fixtures from the brothel times. Later, after I left the hotel, I did research and I saw that indeed those were similar kind of lights with beads that were done at the turn of the century used in brothels. So it all lined up. But I started to feel the pain of this place, of the women that were there before me. I genuinely felt spirits that were there. I didn't get harmed. I didn't hear sounds. It wasn't like that kind of ghost story. But I remember yelling in my head, like, if you guys want to fuck with me, get in line. Get in line because I'm dealing with some big stuff right now. You want to like I was yelling. I was awake. It was like 1, 2, 3 a.m. I was just up and I remember being like, if you want to fuck with me, get in line. Like that. Because this is a long line. Get at the end of the line. That's what I kept saying. I knew that there was a female spirit, made many that were protecting me. I felt that. I kept thanking them over and over that they were like, I was in a cocoon and that nothing could harm me. At that point, I almost was like never even worried if my door was locked. That's when I knew very strongly that locking or unlocking a door means nothing, that I was protected. But I was protected by the energy and the spirits that were in pain too. These women, I was like, you understand me to them. And like, the other bad energy or evil or whatever there was there, because there was some bad energy there. It was like, you're at the back of this line because we're dealing with other stuff now. That's when I could really let my guard down and just come to terms with the fact that I'm beginning a journey of a new identity, a person who has breast cancer. And it was like starting to feel fearful but yet powerful at the same time. Yeah.
Wow. So when you were yelling, would you hear anything back that you felt was different than your own thought?
I mean, yes, I knew that whatever that was trying to harm me, where that was the first night where I felt so afraid that I knew that there would had been bloodshed there. I knew that. I knew that whatever it was heard me and respected what I was saying. And although I felt afraid the whole time I was there, I felt that I was making myself clearly known to the entities, that I also kept saying, I am not here to harm you. I remember being like, I'm dealing with my own shit right now. Like, trust me. I'm not here to harm you. And if you want to fuck with me, that's when I was saying, get in the back of the line because I'm dealing with my own shit right now.
Yeah.
Like, like your shit isn't my priority. Like, maybe I would have been like, this is a psycho, poltergeist house. Honestly, that hallway, I sent you guys photos and I was like, this is kind of creepy. You guys are like, yeah, this is creepy. It's like the poltergeist hallway. That's what that hallway was.
Well, meanwhile, you're there and your older kid, Mina, is staying
Yeah.
with us, and we're online. We start Googling this place,
Oh my God.
and we find out that, oh, it's like one of the most haunted hotels in California or something like that. And we just didn't even tell you where we
Thanks,
basically made the
guys.
deal. We said, oh, we'll tell her when she gets back to Fresno. We'll just tell her
Yeah.
when she gets back, but we're not going to tell her anything while she's still there. We didn't wanna
Yeah.
scare you, but you're already scared.
I was scared. I didn't have like ghost story experiences like lights flickering but I was so deep in my, like, it was like the room was pulling me in constantly. Like, I was battling the spirits there while I was battling myself, while I was battling understanding that I have a disease, that I was going to go through treatment, like what's going to happen with my whole life, and then feeling the pain, the deep pain of all the women that had been there before me somehow.
While you're dealing with an illness involving a specifically woman-related
Yes,
organ.
so big. The breast.
So, it sounds like all 5 nights you were there, you didn't really sleep. Even in the little sitting room, you didn't really sleep?
I would doze off. Yeah, I would doze off and then wake up.
How would you
I
wake
would
up?
I would just be startled constantly. Just startled, awake again, awake again.
Did you turn off the lights in the sitting room at night?
No, never.
So you
I
never
I
saw
turned off a
darkness.
lot of the lights and would leave on a couple of lights, dim lights. Yeah, I never turned off ever the lights completely. Yeah. And yes, people did come in the weekend. Friday night, people started coming, and I was leaving Sunday. And it was good in that it sounded like a normal hotel at that time. People came with families, people were, making noise. There was commotion up and down the hallways. I really appreciated that. It was as if I was coming out of a great dark cave and then seeing the light of all these normal people. At that point, I genuinely felt I was no longer a normal person. Something was really crazy in me. It reminded me, like, oh yeah, this is just a hotel and people are checking in, and look, this kid's crying because they forgot their toy in the car and the parents are trying to check in, and their check-in processes seemed normal, like there was a person at the desk and people were coming and all that stuff. The restaurant got a little more busy, more people were sitting at the tables. I was like looking around like, wow, is this the same place?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the first day when you were checking in and the guy showed you your room, he said, oh, we close all of these doors at night. Did you hear anyone
Oh
go by
my
and
God.
close all the doors at night?
I'm so glad you said that. The first night, so I'm in the room, and then sure enough, I hear bang, bang. Not gentle door closing. Okay, like you work at a hotel, it's all about what is, I mean, I don't know, but it's a customer service based
Yeah,
environment, right?
it's the hospitality industry.
Hospitality. How would you close the door if you believe in hospitality? Maybe softly, thinking there's this one alone woman here.
Like
No,
in my yoga classes, they always say, when you're going to leave, close the door softly. Like,
softly.
because even in a yoga studio, sometimes people will just slam the door.
Well,
But
guess what?
yeah,
This was like 20 slams. And I remember being like, at first, slam freaked out. Okay, because I guess the poltergeist is here to get me. Then I thought, oh, they're closing the doors at night. Good thing that that guy told me that. And I could hear them get closer and closer to my door. And I didn't mention this, but my room was the last room at the end of the hallway. So beyond me, I was right where that mirror was that I was mentioning was at the end of the hall. So it was the first door that he let me into, and then a gap, which is technically where the bathroom is, and then the second door, which I thought then I didn't know that was the small sitting room's door. I thought, oh, that's maybe another door, but that door was closed even the first day.
and was there an exit at the end of the hall?
Yeah, so then you turned right and it would went to another window with an outdoor fire escape stairway.
But not like a normal stairway that you could use.
No. Then you have to go all the way back down.
So you're also in there thinking, oh, well, if I have to escape and make a run for it, am I going to
I'm
do
going to
fire
go,
escape or am I going to run down that
no.
hall?
I think I'm going to run down the hall. I don't know. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, so slam, 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 slam. Next morning, I could hear them open the doors. It was, I think, a mother and a daughter who were the housekeeping. They never said good morning to me, ever, like any of the days. And you know me, like I was smiling. They all know whoever's working there. We have one guest, and that was me. Why wouldn't they
Well,
say
it
hi?
sounds like these people didn't want to be in the building as much as you.
Yeah,
They have to be
that's a
there
good
every
point.
day. How do you think
They're
that
like
weighs on them?
creepy. Yeah. Yeah, it weighs on them for sure.
They might not even know that it's weighing on them,
Yeah.
but it
You know,
is.
me just talking about it, my stomach's in a knot right now.
Why?
I mean, just like remembering all of this, like my stomach's in a knot. Like, oh yeah, that was very scary. And I was having conversations with spirits. Okay, let's not beat around the bush about what was happening.
Okay, so what do you mean when you say, oh, I was having conversations in my head with spirits? Because part of me is like, oh, is my sister hearing voices now? Do you have schizophrenia? So
Wow.
please elaborate.
No, I definitely don't have schizophrenia. What I mean is, I walked into this room and I knew energetically that bad things had happened there. I knew that women were forcibly had sex with. And then I also felt that that closet, something bloody had happened in that zone. And I just didn't even doubt any of this. Like, I don't have that kind of psychic sense 99.9% of my life. You know that. Like, it's not like I'm going around being like, psychic download, something
No,
XYZ over
yeah.
here. This was beyond anything I can explain. It was like I walked into this space and the space was dominating me. And I became very aware of what had happened here. And then I just started asking for the protection of the women. I started going, when I went into that smaller room, I was just praying in my head and just saying, please protect me. Yeah.
You could feel it was women and not just one woman.
Yeah. I felt like it was women. And I was every day just thanking them for their protection because I also felt this bad energy. I don't even want to say the word evil because evil is extremely strong. And maybe it was evil because I was so hyper scared and aware, but it was keeping whatever that was at bay. I was very clear and very aware that the women were protecting me and keeping this evil at bay. They were encircling me. That's literally what I knew was happening. And it was a barrier. And as long as I was in that smaller room, I felt safe, but I didn't feel safe enough to fall asleep. So then I would get up and I would go do my stuff during the day and then I would come back. Whatever I had to do, it was like a couple of hours max. So most of my time on this road trip was spent in that hotel room in particular. I would go do a hike and then it would be like, well, now where do I go? I went to the town of Eureka. And so there was a store there, a larger store, a health food store. And I remember being like, wow, and spending like 2 hours walking every aisle. That was a big activity. And then I would go back and just be there.
And you weren't like looking at the hotels in Eureka being like, I could just move here tonight.
Also, no, I mean, no offense to people from Eureka, but it was by definition, a depressed community, like economically depressed. There was a lot of stores that were closed and it felt really unpleasant. Also, I mean, all of that Humboldt County area is very challenged economically, it seems. I'm not some expert here, but it didn't feel
Well,
good.
look, I can see that, and that's like a topic for another day. But in
Hmm.
California, a lot of the resources are directed towards the major cities in Southern California and then the major cities in the Bay Area. And that's about it. So I live in one of those resource poor areas, and you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe you're in California with some of the things that we encounter in Central California. So I think the deep Northern California has similar problems to Central California.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
I mean, I could see that.
so did you at any point go into any of those open other rooms to see what they were like?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't go in all the way. I just peeked my head in. I never walked into a room that was open, but I did like lean in in the doorway, kind of looking around. And I'll say they gave me the best room. They did give me a very good bedroom. And they were very beautiful, all of them aesthetically. The designers had done a really nice job of melding the original furniture and lighting fixtures with new things, and they'd done a good job. But the creep factor is just dense in the bones of that building that no amount of paint or new switches is going to change that.
Well, it's very interesting that, you had really what sounds like a very odd experience and nothing you can you know, say, oh, this is proof of something, right? There weren't any sounds, nothing moved, you didn't record anything, but you felt it, right? And so
Ye-
I feel like with a lot of these experiences, people think, oh, is it real? Is it not? Is it just your imagination? And I feel like who cares? Even if it is your imagination, you felt those emotions for real. And so they serve a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember seeing a staircase because I did kind of try to explore during the day, and it went up to what looked like a third floor, which wasn't that obvious that there could be another story from the outside of the building. And I just had this feeling like, oh, do not go near that staircase. and I did not. I I
Oh.
I just did not mess around when I was there. And later, because you guys did tell me that, "Oh my god, by the way, thank God you're back. That was a super haunted hotel." And I did Google it, which I never did that before going.
Why would
Because
you?
why would we? Yeah. Do we Google any other hotels that we normally said? We've traveled. We don't Google any of it. We Google it to see, oh, do I like this hotel?
Yeah.
And then I've read somewhere in all these places with the Scotia Lodge, it's known that on there's a third story and there is a ghost that they gave him a name even, lives there and causes havoc. So it's the third story ghost. And I was like, oh, no wonder I didn't go near that staircase. I was like, I am not messing around, right? Like, I'm not messing with you, and you are not going to mess with me. I was very, very aware to show respect while no human was around me, to show respect. I'm not barging into these empty rooms. I am keeping to where I should be. I've been given this room. Okay, you know? Later, I also read that yes, the Scotia Lodge, there was lore that that upper floor was also used as a brothel slash lodging for people who worked in the lumber yards. So I confirmed that, feeling I had.
Yeah. So it was a brothel.
Yeah. And so that makes sense why the small room where I ended up staying had its own entrance and exit.
Yes.
So that a woman would enter from there, the man would already be in the main room. The bathroom separated those spaces. So she could tidy herself up in the bathroom and then enter the main room. Then he could come and go from the main room and the bathroom would separate the spaces. So it made sense. Not that I have any kind of experience in that realm, you know?
Yeah. I mean, when you said the layout of that room and originally, I was just thinking this makes no sense. Why would a hotel room be arranged that way?
Yeah, it made no sense, right? You're like, what do I do with this tiny weird room over here past the bathroom? But then you're like, oh yeah, I get it now.
And I remember even while you were there, because we were all talking every day, you said, I feel like this place was a brothel, and you
Yeah,
didn't have any of that information yet.
not yet, but then I really felt it. I mean, I would say day two, after settling in, I started to really tune into what was happening here, what had happened there.
Do you feel like the women were protecting you only, or were they also trying to tell you anything?
No, I just feel like they were protecting me. I think that I was so also deep in my own sorrow of really beginning to realize that I have cancer. And I felt that's why I was in that space. It was like I got thrown into some kind of a black hole where I could just be in a dark, literally in a dark spiritual environment. Like anyone, I think, walking into that hotel is going to feel, even if you're not connected to anything spiritually, you're just going to be like, this place is giving me the creeps. And then I felt like I had to stay there. And it gave me a place to work it out all in my head, and that they were protecting me to carve out space for me to do that work of going through all the deep emotional reaction to having cancer, which I didn't do because you and I were in A, go mode, understanding what all the facts are, laying out the medical plan. B, I'm not breaking down really in front of my kids and my family. C, I'm still going to work because I'm thinking everything's normal. It was like that the women, the spirits there created a place for me to not be in present time almost is like a crack in everything we know. And I was in this cracked place, feeling everything, and then kind of came out of there and came out of the whole road trip really being ready to say, okay, let's do this. Like, I understand. No longer in denial. I believe like I felt more ready when I came back from the road trip. Like, okay, we're going to do all the medical, plan A of how to tackle cancer. And that was when I was like, okay, I'm also going to talk about taking time off of work, although it didn't come immediately. It was 2 months. It was actually the next month. Actually, the next month in September, I officially took my leave of absence from work. So the road trip and having that time in the hotel where I feel like I spiraled deeply, the environment propelled me to spiral is what happened. And then I just worked through everything and then came back ready to take the time off, do the treatments, feel positive, feel like I can survive, much stronger. We were very strong.
I mean,
And
you
I
were
say we
very
cuz you're
strong.
with me the whole time.
But so you feel like being in that, I don't know, black hole of a space was the thing you needed to like process this and really process the emotions to then help you do the next steps.
Yeah. And my novel took me there. The research of the novel, the environment, and I could never have known about Scotia Lodge had it not been for the research behind the novel and then trying to find a legit, still running lumber town. And then I got there, and then I didn't realize that what I'm doing there has actually nothing to do with the novel.
Yeah, it really
Yeah,
didn't in the end. That trip was
not,
all about you.
yeah,
And thanks to those, ladies who helped
yeah.
you. Well, I think those were some good final thoughts. Anything else you want to add to this story, G?
I mean, not really, other than I think I want to go back to taking a look at the novel now. And thank you to that process of writing that took me to a place I would have never gone, that clearly I needed to be there for, another chapter to emerge in my life. So now I'm like, oh, let me look at the novel again. Interesting. Who knows what new things I'll see?
I think you should.
Okay. We'll talk about that another time.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, G.
Thanks, P.
See you next time.
Okay, bye.
Please like, subscribe, share, and download the podcast. And again, you can find us at Human School Podcast on Instagram. I'd like to thank Dr. Zach Effron for the theme music. And I'd just like to make a general disclaimer that any of the institutions I work for, including Community Regional Medical Center, UCSF Fresno, and American Ambulance, have nothing to do with any of my thoughts or opinions. And so we'll kindly leave them out of this. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.